The history of Kiev, which can be counted back many centuries, is inseparable from the history of the local Jewish community, whose origin dates to the time of the Kiev Rus. There is a dispute among scholars about the starting point of the Jews who came to Kiev. However, nobody would dispute the actual fact of the existence of a very old Jewish community in Kiev. The fact is supported by documents, such as a letter sent in the first half of the 10th century by Kiev Jews to their Soreligionists, discovered in a synagogue in Cairo. There are also Kiev Chronicles, which provide recorded evidence that in ancient Kiev existed a Jewish quarter, Zhidove, and Jewish gates nearby one another. During the Tatar invasion, Jews in Kiev and other Kiev residents were severely afflicted. Nevertheless, already by the end of the 13th century, the Jewish community of the city has been revived. The city became a cultural and religious center of Jewish life in Eastern Europe. The fact is supported by the contemporary Aus-Jewish saying, "Teaching comes from Kiev," and the teaching influenced not only the life of the Jewish community but, as contemporary scholars submit, the development of ancient Russian philosophy and literature as well. The following centuries were not easy for the Jewish community in Kiev. Some periods, as for example those of the Cossack Wars, were considered catastrophic for Jews. For more than a century there were particularly no Jews in Kiev. Only at the end of the 18th century did the community begin to revive. Jews set up commerce and artisan crafts and built their private and religious houses. The revival was stopped by the restrictive decrees of Nicholas I, according to which Jews were obliged to leave the cities. It was only at the time of the reforms of Alexander II that some Jews were allowed to return to Kiev. However, in general, the Jewish laws remained in operation until the February Revolution of 1917. Overall, Kiev Jewry suffered frequently from pogroms in the second half of the 19th and early 20th centuries. The shameful Beilis case is also connected to Kiev. Its organizers tried to find Jews guilty of blood worshipping. Nevertheless, in spite of all implements and persecutions, the Jewish community in Kiev left a bright trace after itself in every sphere of city life. In the second half of the 19th and early 20th centuries, there were celebrated entrepreneurs and businessmen, engineers and scientists, lawyers and doctors, writers and artists. In Kiev emerged a central core of the Zionist movement among its activists, Mandelstam and Borokhov. Here, future leaders of the State of Israel, Golda Meir and Ephraim Katsir, started their careers. The great Jewish writer Sholem Aleichem lived and worked here. Babel studied here. Ilya Ehrenburg was born here. Mandelstam lived here. The year of the civil war were extremely hard for the Jews. They suffered from famine, cold and disruption. The threat of physical extermination was upon them. Nevertheless, even at the time, there were people who found the power in themselves to help those who were poorer than they. In Soviet years also proved to be difficult. On the other side, they were marked by the destruction of Jewish religion and tradition education, and by the prohibition of Hebrew. On the other side, by the revival of Yiddish culture, albeit in a restricted way, beginning in the 1920s. Until the end of the 30s, there were many Jewish academic and educational institutions in Kiev, alongside theaters and publishing houses that published books, newspapers and magazines. However, already before World War II started, Stalinist national policy had erased these achievements to nothing. The most horrific period in the history of Kiev Jewry was the time of Nazi-occupied Kiev. In Babin Yar, more than 100,000 Jews were killed, the memory of whom was neglected for a very long period. After the war, Jews fell under the oppression of state anti-Semitism, which took the form of anti-Zionist campaigns, such as struggle against cosmopolitans and the Doctor's Plot and so on. This was one of the reasons why emigrations to Israel and other countries was so intensive.